Still, new stormy waves crashed over him one after another, so his anger wasn't completely extinguished. Why didn't you report it to me? Were you trying to hide it? And no, it wasn't anything like that. Then why haven't I heard anything about it? What reason could there possibly be? I didn't think it was very important, so I didn't report it. When she looked up at him, frightened, his emotions returned like a raging fire. Lupus Regina. I am disappointed in you. Lupus Regina wasn't the only one who shuddered. Sixus, Narbarrel, and the 8-edged assassins on the ceiling all froze in shock. Yes, I've given you discretion in overseeing that village, but that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want based on your personal judgment. I told you to report in if something might change in a big way. So what is going on? Well, he grimaced as she trailed off. A working adult would never be forgiven for this kind of mistake. No one would. Reporting in to your superior and consulting with them on what to do next isn't just business manners, it's common sense for any adult. If she can even do that, that's not acceptable in this organization. But Lupus Regina was terrified. Aints wondered if it was his fault as well. Perhaps the mistake was due to his unreliable leadership. He hadn't gripped the reins tightly enough. If his wishes weren't making their way down the chain properly, it was his fault as everyone's boss. Had he not made himself clear, maybe it would be better if he retired and left things up to Demiurge or Albedo. Lupus Regina, do you understand how valuable that village is to us? I've heard from you that it's valuable, my lord. No, I am asking you how valuable you think that village is. Well, it's full of toys. Oh, I see. Right, I am sorry. This is my mistake. I didn't realize that's all you thought. Ain't smiled an exhausted smile, realizing it was his fault after all. I take back my disappointment. I said too much, forgive me. What are you talking about? Blame me, I am the idiot. Then all you need to do is be more careful next time. So, let us start over. You must understand that the village of Khan is very valuable. Enfira and his grandmother Lizzie have particularly crucial roles inside Nazareth. What, really? Yes, I am having them develop new potions for us. Oh, I was going to give you this. Lupus Regina suddenly shouted, completely pale in the face, and pulled out a purple potion. Narbarrel took it from her and carried it to Aints. What is this? Aints took the potion and held it up to the light. It's the latest healing potion developed by Enfira. Aints' anger flared anew, but he held it back. With this, the Belair family is even more important. Lupus Regina gave him an uncomprehending look, and Aints quietly smiled at her. This potion had to have been made using the various materials he had given them from Nazareth. Even though Enfira and his grandmother couldn't use the potion's synthesizing techniques of Yggdrasil, they had used Yggdrasil materials to create something that was neither the blue potion of this world nor the red potion of Yggdrasil. That point deserved some attention. First of all, the healing potions in this world are blue. But the ones I know are red, so I wonder about this. Aints went on at length. He was certain his knowledge and powers from Yggdrasil could be used in this world. His encounters with angels and the existence of things that seemed to be world items pointed to a good chance that Yggdrasil players had existed in this world in the past. So why were only the potions different from Yggdrasil's red ones? He could think of three possibilities. One was the loss of technology and a break in knowledge due to countries falling to ruin. Technologies, once known, were very likely to spread to neighboring states. This had to have taken place over a wide area. It was impossible without entire countries being destroyed, so the chance of it being this type of disaster was low. His second idea was that Enfira personally didn't know how to make them, or the knowledge hadn't spread to countries in this region. Just as it was said that in the past the color of Japan's noodle soup was different in the East and West, it was possible that in far-off countries, potions were red or another color. His final theory made the most sense. Synthesizing Yggdrasil potions required Yggdrasil materials. They either couldn't be gathered in this world, or they had run out. So the best that could be created here were blue potions. So excluding idea number 2, this potion Enfira made, he shook the potion in his hand. This potion could be a technological revolution, the likes of which hasn't been seen in hundreds of years. But if number 3 is right, it could just be a retrogressive failure. Everything depends on how hard Enfira works from now on. Understand, what he was asking Enfira to do was to make Yggdrasil potions without relying on Yggdrasil potion technology or materials, or to perfect some third type of potion. So are you going to have a lot of people study potions based on this one? Aints frowned at Narbrel's question. That's a foolish question, Narbrel. That route would get us to perfection faster, but it's extremely dangerous. Knowledge is power. To senselessly hand it out is a fool's errand. That's exactly how the world of Yggdrasil had been, so Aints could say it with confidence. For example, we can be sure an advanced form of this potion wouldn't kill me in one hit. So it's safer to monopolize this technology rather than spread it around, probably. If our servants are simple-minded, it's fine to share it with them. We have to advance technology carefully. That includes Enfire's potion. That's why I'd like to lock him up in Nazarick and have him focus on nothing but research. It would be a good way to maintain secrecy and bar him from using the potions he made. So why don't you do that, my lord? He could tell she would leap into action as soon as he said the word, so he answered in a hurry. Building trust and binding him with chains of gratitude will lead to greater future profit than forcing him to work from a dungeon. I had Demiurge analyze this. It appears that making someone feel indebted to you is effective. What is it, Lupus Regina? I am too much of an idiot to understand, so please tell me one thing. If that's the case, then why did you give a potion to Brita, that adventurer? Hearing the name Brita threw Aints into confusion. He couldn't remember having ever heard it. Maintaining an expression or perhaps an attitude, since his face didn't shift that said he had everything under control, he dug frantically through his memories. Oh, that potion. He finally remembered the incident at the inn the first night he had stayed in Rantle. Recalling what he had said, he was glad he didn't have the sort of body that broke out in a cold sweat. What should I do? What should I do? He couldn't stay silent forever. Demiurge, Albedo, why are neither of you here? Demiurge is working outside, and Albedo is in disciplinary confinement. It's too late to call them back now, I see. You don't understand why? No, my apologies. Could you please explain? He wanted to scream at her not to ask so innocently. There was nothing he could do now besides take a make-or-break gamble, having decided that he felt bravery welling up inside him. Hoo-hoo, ha-ha-ha-ha. Certainly it was a dangerous move, as you suspected, Lupus Regina. There was the possibility of runaway technological advancement, but I had an important purpose for daring to give her the potion anyway. Really, it wasn't just to replace the potion she lost. At the outburst from Narbrel, Aints swallowed what he had been about to say. He spun up the gears in his brain and remembered that first day in Rantle in more detail. Oh right, back then, I said it was to avoid doing something that would tarnish my reputation. Crap, Aints feigned calm. Lying to cover another lie inevitably led to being trapped in a corner like this. He frantically scraped together his rapidly fading courage. Is that really all you thought it was, Narbrel? Please excuse my error. No, you don't have to apologize. At the time I wasn't sure if it would work out, so I only mentioned the simpler of my aims. So then, what was your true aim? In response to Narbrel's question, Aints slowly opened his mouth. Even at that moment, he had no clue what to say. But just then he was struck with a hunch and unhesitatingly seized on the idea. Enfirer having made his solemn declaration, he looked at each of his subordinates. Albedo or Demiurge would say something like, "Oh, I see, I would expect nothing less, my lord." But at this point, Narbrel only furrowed her brow and said, "Enfirer, my lord." Aints put a hand to his mouth. MRPH Narbrel and the others looked ashamed of themselves. They must have taken his pose to mean, "I've explained this much, and you still don't understand." But actually, he had unconsciously put his hand there while trying to think what to do next. For a short while, he was overly nervous, riding the waves of emotion that were suppressed and renewed in turn. But after the fierce storm, he discovered an exit. He didn't know what he would find on the other side, but he was ready to grasp at any straw, so he stepped into the dark unknown. I succeeded in capturing the apothecary Enfirer. Does that answer your question? Oh, I know. If someone gave you a potion totally different from the normal blue ones everyone knows, what's the first thing you would do? Ask someone? Yes, you're exactly right, Lupus Regina. And just as I planned, she took it to the most knowledgeable potion merchant in town. That is how I made contact with Enfirer. He remembered Enfirer telling him that story back in Khan. Oh, I see, so that was your aim. Seems like you get it now. It was bait used to acquire a capable apothecary. There was a risk of issues in the future depending on how things turned out, but I decided it had to be done regardless. Comprehension filled the air, and admiration shone on everyone's faces. Guess my story lines up. Then a voice sounded, as if its owner had been waiting for Aints to internally sigh in relief. I don't mean to be rude, but may I ask something else? Aints cried inwardly, just stop. No more questions, but he didn't let the slightest hint of those feelings show on his face. What is it, Lupus Regina? If you're sure it is something I should answer, go ahead. Yes, my lord. She swallowed hard. Her expression was earnest. Do you always think 2 or 3 steps ahead like this when you do something? Not always. Aints' actions were mostly haphazard. Sometimes he did think things through, but most of the time, he was plunged into situations that betrayed his expectations. He couldn't very well say that to a subordinate, though. Of course, I am the ruler of the great tomb of Nazarick, Aints Ul Gown. They oohed in admiration, and Lupus Regina's eyes went especially wide. What is it, Lupus Regina? The resourceful king, she practically choked out the words, and Aura took a step forward with a frown on her face. But Aints stopped her. Don't worry about it. Was that your only question? Well, I guess I have one more. Why don't you have monsters attack the village and then save them? I think if you rescued Enfira and his grandmother from the burning village, they'd feel even more indebted to you and make themselves useful. That's not a bad move at all. Perhaps it's worth considering. But in that case, it's possible that Enfira would turn his hatred on monsters. He might not want to cooperate with us anymore. If they were being raised by a group of humans, it would be different. In that case, we should save Henry Emot as well to tighten our hold. Although the fact that Khan was useful as a village, that the caster Aints Ul Gown had saved did make it a hard decision. By the way, the most important person in that village is Enfira. And since he is in love with Henry, she is number 2. Lastly, there is Enfira's grandmother Lizzie. I don't care what happens to the others, but protect those 3 at all costs. In a worst-case scenario, guard Enfira even if it costs you your life. Lupus Regina asked, so will that be all? Yes, thank you, okay, I forgive this mistake, but now that you know my intentions, I want to forgive another. You understand, right? Of course, my lord. Good, then go and do a splendid job. Lupus Regina left with a bow, and Narbril followed her like a prison guard. After the 2 disappeared behind the door, Aints turned to the guardian standing by next to him. So, Aura, have you heard of the Giant of the East, or the Serpent of the Wee? They heard a voice behind the door say, Lord Aints is seriously not screwing around. He thinks everything out so well, before he makes his move the word monster docent even begin to cover it. The thick door muffled it, but it was still loud enough to interrupt their conversation. And if they could hear it in the room, how loud was it out in the corridor? Should I tell her the door is thinner than she thinks? She is pretty worked up, huh? I could punch just then. From behind the door, they heard a difficult-to-place slamming noise. Then they heard the sound of something heavy being dragged away. Looks like you need to intervene, Aura. Well, we've been disrupted, haven't we? Okay, so have you heard of them? My apologies. I don't have any information about the Giant of the East or the Serpent of the West. After the fight with the evil tree, I did a search of the forest. It was quick looking for any powerful monsters. Although I didn't reach the subterranean cave, well, if they were at Hamusuk's level, I can understand why they wouldn't catch your attention. A gardener wouldn't be aware of every bee that flies by. It was fairly difficult to solve the issue of the strong having that sort of oversight. My apologies. Then, Lord Aints, shall I mop them up? That is not a bad idea. Maybe we should kill the obnoxious maggots and bring the forest entirely under Nazarick's control. Understood. Then I'll send in a few of my pets. That wasn't fun. If this Giant of the East and Serpent of the West were as strong as Hamusuk, he was curious to see what they were like. Then should I capture them and drag them back here? No, going personally wouldn't be so bad. Thanks to Hamusuk, I've learned the value of old knickknacks. Aura looked like she didn't know what he was talking about, and he smiled at her. Of course, that won't be all. Let us see if we can devise a test for Lupus Regina, too. 7:16 p.m. Nazarick time. Fenrir walked leisurely through the dark forest without making a sound. Even if branches or tangled vines barred his path, neither his movements nor those of the 2 riding him were hindered. It was like the 3 of them were incorporeal ghosts. They didn't so much as snap a twig. It was the power of Fenrir's special ability, Land Navigator. According to the report from my minions, the lair of what might be the giant of the east is up ahead. The trees grew so thickly in this place that the starlight didn't even shine through, but Aura didn't sound a bit nervous. Unlike humans and other beings with ordinary vision, Aints and the others could see everything as if it was the middle of the day. I see, the giant of the east and the serpent of the west. If we ray lucky, they'll be having a party together, but I guess that's a lot to ask. If the snake isn't here, I'll leave it up to you, Aura. Yes, sir, I'll do my best. And how will you deal with these fools who dare show hostility to you, my lord? I think I'll try talking to them first. Aura turned around to look at Aints with a questioning look on her face. You are not going to subordinate them to your will? Well, the giant of the east and the serpent of the west are both unknowns. It is probably better, from a variety of perspectives, to go into it with that attitude. I'd like to obtain them if they don't exist in Yggdrasil, you know. You're so kind, Lord Aints. She wasn't being sarcastic. Why you think so? I am only kind when it benefits me or members of Nazarick. If these monsters are like Hamusuk, they might be valuable, that's all. I might as well take the chance to see what they ray about. You were mentioning that about Hamusuk earlier too. Is she really so valuable? She sure is. She is great for experimenting on. Hamusuk was currently training as a warrior under the lizardman Zayusu. Incidentally, there was another student, as well a Death Knight Ain't summoned. The aim of the training was to test if they could acquire the warrior class. Aints was especially interested in the Death Knight's results. If they could become a warrior, it would be possible to rapidly boost Nazarick's military strength. It was probably impossible, but they wouldn't have the results unless they did the experiment. Is that why you ray having the blacksmith make her armor? Because she is so important? You sure have good ears. That's one reason. But if I am going to ride her on a battlefield in the future, I need to strengthen her defenses. If Hamusuk acquired the warrior class, she would probably be able to wear full plate armor. When he put the heavy armor on her now, her mobility and evasion capability decreased noticeably. This made sense. If she can operate well in armor unless she acquires the warrior class, it's just like the game. Even I am bound by the game rules. I can even put on metal armor myself. Compared to that, she has fewer restrictions. If we had one more Hamusuk, we could investigate the differences between them. These game-like restrictions were another mystery of this world. If he had Demiurge investigate, he could probably get an accurate understanding of them. But for whatever reason, he didn't really feel like it. He might just have to accept that this world has laws of magic that are totally different from the laws of physics. He could accept that anything could be possible. Lord Aints, is something wrong? No, it is nothing. What do you need? You seem to be pondering something, so I just wondered if there was something on your mind. Oh. Well, I just got caught up thinking about a bunch of things. It didn't mean anything else, I see. Seeming relieved, Aura turned back around. Aints moved his eyes down lower from her hair, which looked like golden silk. His gaze passed her slim back to his own hands around her little waist. Such a delicate waist. He wondered if this is what kids' hips were like. Aints had never had children, so out of curiosity, he patted her waist as if testing the sturdiness of one of his belongings. Then he brought his hands higher and lightly struck her back. Since they were riding Fenrir, he obviously didn't use too much force, but Aura still jumped and whirled around. Wah, what Lord Aints? Her face was bright red, so red even someone without night vision would be able to tell. I just thought you had such a tiny waist. Are you eating enough? Even with an item that means you don't have to eat, you still can, right? Why yes. I don't get any magic buffs or anything, but I can eat. In Yggdrasil, humanoids and subhumans developed in exchange for having a lifespan, but grotesques stopped growing after a certain point and aging ended. If those rules were valid in this world, Aura and Mare would grow up. He didn't want anything bad to happen to them because they didn't get proper nutrition when they were young. Since his guildmates were around, Aints felt responsible for the growth of these children. Make sure you ray eating. Okay, I'll eat a lot and annoy Sholtia. He wondered why Sholtia suddenly came up, but decided to ignore it. Items that make eating and drinking unnecessary might be bad for your development, so it may be better to exchange them for a different magic item. Growing up someday, the two of them will have lovers, Both Aura and Mare were adorable kids. Surely, they grow up to be beautiful young dark elves. Aints imagined all sorts of people confessing their love for them, not that he had much experience with that personally, but he'd seen it in dramas on TV. Perhaps because of their conversation, he imagined them surrounded by a ton of hamuseuks. Little Aura and Mare surrounded by a ton of hamuseuks.